Hello, gamers from around the world. This is Boxenberger, the video game enthusiast from Germany, and I would like to welcome you to today's very special episode of the World of Gaming because we have a premiere here. I think you've never been properly on the World of Gaming. You've been on the prediction show for the E3 or Xbox Live event this year, but we haven't had you for a full show, so it's a very special episode to have you on here. Miles, how are you doing?
I am fantastic. Stoked to join you guys. Yeah, this is my first official World of Gaming appearance outside, like you said, the predictions, and the first time we've been on a show together in a little while. Both of you two gents. So I'm stoked. I'm excited to be here, ready to talk some video games. And let's get into it.
Awesome, man. But first, let me also welcome my co-host, Wandering Dutchman. Brother, how are you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing good. I've been holding off playing God of War until the weekend, so I am really looking forward to that.
You were able to do that. No FOMO.
Nothing worse than a game releasing midweek when you're at work.
Indeed. You know, I wanted to take a day off work extra. I had it booked in like months ago, and my boss canceled it. I had to fly to Barcelona for a day. And people think it's awesome to go to Barcelona instead of playing God of War. But seriously, I've seen nothing in between the airport, a meeting room, and the airport. It's like, But we will get to God of War in a second. I was able to play at least a little bit. But let me also welcome everyone in chat. I see the chat is already filling up with a lot of familiar names. Big shout out to you. And of course, a big welcome to everyone who listens on the podcast services around the globe. Spotify, Google Podcast, Apple Podcast. Welcome to you guys as well. We have an awesome show. We have a lot of topics to talk about. We will, of course, talk about the rumored Diablo fall release date. We will talk about Mass Effect, and Starcraft might get a revival on Xbox. Phil has talked about that, so that's always worth a discussion. Call of Duty, Xbox, energy savings, and a lot more. But first, we will talk about the games of the week. All right, gentlemen, the games of the week. We want to know from you, of course, Miles, what you have been playing. But please, also everyone in chat, let us know what has kept you busy on the gaming side.
So this week I got sucked into Vampire Survivors, y'all. I was, a little late to the game. I saw a bunch of people months ago when it hit PC, hit Steam, hit PC Game Pass, talking about how it was a legit Game of the Year contender. And I went online, I watched some trailers, and I was like, oh, it looks like a bullet hell game. It looks chaotic. It's Castlevania inspired. So that automatically had me a little intrigued, but I didn't play it until about a couple days ago. I got a code and was playing it on my Steam Deck. And oh my God, it is so addicting. It's a simple premise. So it's kind of sort of an auto battler meets a bullet hell. So you control your character, but you don't control your attacks at all. All of your attacks are automatic. And essentially, there's just hundreds and thousands of enemies just encroaching on you, trying to kill you. And you maneuver around, kill them, level up, get new power-ups. But, it's the first night I played it, it was probably about 11:20. I was getting ready to wind down for bed, and I was like, all right, let me check this out. Let me play a few rounds. I ended up playing until well past 1 a.m. and I was like, okay, I need to put this down. I need to stop playing this game.
So it's always a good sign when it's like that addictive, man.
Yeah, the loop is just, it's so tight. It's a hard max of 30 minutes for a run, but if you like roguelites, really satisfying. If you love Castlevania, a lot of the power-ups and characters and monsters and music feels pulled straight from that universe. So as someone just desperate for anything Castlevania, Konami has done me dirty for well over a decade now on the Castlevania front. It's scratched an itch for me, and it's been really, really good.
Sweet. Anything else, or was that mainly the game for you this week?
I've been in my battle pass grind phase, so I'm part of the problem. So I've been grinding out my dailies in multiverses. I've been grinding out my dailies in Fortnite. Been grinding out my dailies in Pokemon Unite. Really, I'm biding my time until Pokemon Scarlet comes out. Like I almost picked up God of War just because of all of the hype but I'm working on Star Ocean. I'm working on a Plague Tale Requiem. So I have this terrible problem of buying a bunch of games at the same time and then beating none of them. So I'm trying to be better about it. So I'm really forcing myself to finish what I have before I pick up something new. So I'm trying to plow through a Plague Tale Requiem and Star Ocean before Pokemon hits.
Sweet. All right, Dutch, we will get to you in a second. I just briefly want to read us the first super chat of the day that comes in from Drawn TJ. He sends in $5. Thank you so much. He says, "Hey guys, what's up, Miles? Great guest, Boxenberger. Indeed, a great guest indeed." And we have UK Lad, who just became a channel member. Awesome, man. Thank you so much for the support. Well, Dutch, what kept you busy this week?
Yeah,
you owe me, by the way, that Age of Empires 4 match from last weekend.
I know. We do need that. I was doing. What was I even doing last weekend? I can't even remember. Was it football?
I don't know.
Just
probably watching TV or something. Falling asleep. Lots of sleep recently. The only thing I've had a chance to play this week actually is I was doing the giveaway stream for God of War Ragnarok with Frame a Game, and whilst I was doing that, I decided to put God of War 2018 back on and started playing through that again. On the build up to the new God of War releasing. So yeah, it was good. It was good. Eventually got that working on stream because Elgato and PlayStation have some weird restrictions where you have to turn a whole bunch of stuff off for it to even bother streaming.
Yeah, don't get me started about you need to turn HDR off, and then PlayStation automatically turns on like the color correction settings, and you have to turn them off then again manually before you can actually record something. It is. I always say, like, if we talk all the time about how Xbox has an awful DVR and they need to improve it, no doubt. But somehow PlayStation found a way to make it even worse. It's like, why do both not get DVR on consoles, right? I don't know.
Yeah, PlayStation's DVR it suffers from low quality, whereas but great editing tools. And Xbox,
indeed, the editing tools,
bad editing tools. Like you can't do anything. Like now you can trim it. Woohoo!
Yeah,
but the quality of the videos is hit and miss. Sometimes it comes out okay. Other times it comes out and it's like loads of like pixelated or blurry, or the HDR is completely messed up. So yeah, they both have improvements to go, but the editing tools on PlayStation side are far superior. But
that's true. That's true.
Aside,
but you can't clip in 4K. Like base functionality missing. Yeah.
Nice.
So
other than that, just a little bit of Call of Duty. I'm also part of the problem, Miles.
Part of the Call of Duty machine, bro.
Yeah, part of that 1 billion and 10-day machine. Yeah, God. And that's without microtransactions.
Yeah. But, I haven't picked up Call of Duty just yet.
I mean, when you pick be it on sale or anything else, you'll have a really good time with the campaign. It's good fun. It's one of the best campaigns they've done for a considerable amount of years.
Yeah, indeed, man. I got a challenge here. John TJ sends in $5 and says, "I'm going to beat you on an Age of Empires 4 or 2 when it comes to Xbox." Challenge accepted, dude. Challenge accepted. Because I've been playing Age, of course, again. I just can't put it down. And I have to shout out World's Edge. Season 3 started. Yeah, like now almost 2 weeks ago, and it's the best season so far. It's so good. Can you still hear me?
We can hear you.
I can hear.
Can't see it though.
Okay, I have no idea what's going on. Okay, yeah, I don't know why. What's happening here? I will fix that a little later when someone else is talking. And let's throw just some gameplay on of another game that I have been playing outside of H4, of course. Now I screw up the overlay as well. There we go. Gotham Knights still kept me busy. I and we can just watch a little gameplay. No story spoilers here.
When it first zoomed in there, I thought you went back to play Crackdown.
I thought the exact same thing. I was like, "Oh, dang, Crackdown 3, let's go."
Oh no, I'm playing as a Red Hood here, and it's Gotham Knights, and I really like it, man. I know everyone was complaining about the 30 FPS, and I still think it's not good of the developers to not have a performance mode in that game. But the game itself is just really good, and I'm having a blast with it. The story is fantastic, combat is fun, and I just like it. I really do like it. Yeah, and yesterday evening, I started God of War. I only played like, I don't know, the first hour or so, or maybe hour and a half. I was thinking about recording some gameplay so we can watch that, but honestly, I recorded the first hour and it's so full of story spoilers that I decided, okay, I'm not going to show that here. I don't want to spoil anything for anyone. But yeah, it really is good. You can tell that controls are tight. You know, the combat is just like you expect it to be, like on point. The pacing is great. Yeah, God of War is amazing. So yeah, that's basically what kept me busy. Let's see what people in the community have been playing. We have here Ballantone played Persona Royale. Sweet. And we have Siki who played Overwatch, which is always good. Halo. Yeah, we will talk about Halo a little bit later. The big update is out. Masshole played Plague's Tale and also Halo, which is cool to see people getting back to Halo. What else do we have? We have Doom Reaper, Little Nightmares 2. Oh, you can never go wrong with that. Yeah, man, the chat, the people play a lot of good stuff. Carolina Gamer also agrees with me. Gotham Knights is awesome. It is. So yeah, anything else you want to add to the games the week before we move into the news of the week?
No, but I will be playing Return to Monkey Island, which is kind of after announcement it's coming to Xbox Game Pass, kind of just shadow dropped onto Xbox the other day. So I was like, okay, now it's on, sweet. So I'll probably be playing that later on tonight because it's a nice chilled game. It's nice when I can just play an hour or so and then turn it off. So play that for a bit and then I can just chip away at that over time.
That's cool. All right. Before we move to the news, one more super chat coming in from Drawn TJ, who is already so generous today again, man. Thank you so much. He says THQ Nordic is making a spin-off of Command & Conquer called Tempest Rising coming out in 2023. They threw shade at EA. Yeah, everyone check that game out, the trailers. It definitely looks like a Command & Conquer sequel, and I can't wait to play that. Honestly, it really looks good. I don't know, have you guys seen that game? Tempest Rising?
Not yet.
No, I haven't. But I'm not the biggest RTS guy, so that wouldn't be
that will change once Age is dropping.
Age of Empires 2 for me, all time greatest. So I will dabble with that. But to be honest with everyone, that's about where my RTS playing peaked. So been a minute.
It's been a minute. Sounds like it. Yeah, man. No, Age is so good. I have like 380 or 90 hours now into it, so almost at 400 hours in Age 4. So I just love it. All right, but let's talk about the news of the week. So there was quite some interesting stuff happening this week, and I will hand it over now to Miles to talk about this because I want to fix my camera here. I don't know what's happening. I have to unplug it probably. Diablo 4, we have the rumor of a release date. Our good friend Special Nick put that rumor out during the Xbox Era podcast, and you might have heard of this other guy called Chess or something.
Yes. Senor Jez Corden of WindowsCentral.com.
Exactly. By the way, I haven't properly introduced you as being like the video host of Windows Central, and also now you started your own YouTube channel. So, guys, if you don't follow Miles on his private YouTube channel now, definitely click in the description of the show. You will find the link right there. Go over there and sub. Man, what's your plan with that private channel?
It's just Pokemon.
Just a Pokemon channel.
Shameless plug time. Yes. So finally, after a lot of encouragement from a lot of people, I've had people asking me why I haven't had my own channel for a long time. Most of my time at Windows Central. So primarily, most of my video work has been on Windows Central Gaming, which is the Windows Central YouTube channel. This week, I finally took some time and started putting out videos on my own channel. So it's youtube.com/MilesDompierre. It's going to be other stuff because typically with Windows Central, I cover Xbox, the Windows PC ecosystem, and I don't really have an outlet to talk about the other stuff I'm interested in because I have a PlayStation. I love Nintendo and PlayStation. I also wanted an outlet to talk about ridiculous horror movies. So this is kind of my own personal channel. It's not exclusively gaming. It's going to be gaming, music, and horror specifically. So if you're interested in some of that, I got a couple videos up. My goal there is just to put out a couple videos a week of stuff that I'm not talking about on Windows Central. So I'm excited about it. It gives me some opportunities to do my own thing outside of the Windows Central bubble. And yeah, if you're curious, check it out. And a huge shout out to all the amazing people who've already, have been banging the drum online and excited about it, because that makes me excited to see so many people stoked that I'm actually taking the time to do this. Really means a lot, and it really, gives me that energy and enthusiasm to keep going. Because, as much as it's important to have some confidence, you never know. You never know if anyone cares. I'm still weirded out that anyone cares that I come on podcasts or talk about video games at all in any capacity.
Same here.
So
same here.
The fact that people want to hear me talk about video games, it's cool and it's weird, and I appreciate it.
Yeah, when I feel the same. It's so awesome with the community that they take the time out of their busy schedule and their everyday life and just listen to our opinions that we have about gaming, which is simply awesome. So yeah, guys, definitely check Miles's channel out. Again, you can find the link in. Follow him on Twitter or with the Windows Central Gaming YouTube channel. You will find all that in the show notes. All right.
So yeah, Diablo 4, right?
Diablo 4. Thank you. And my camera is gone again. What is going on?
IP. All right. Well, you're fiddling with that. I'll get everybody up to speed on Diablo 4. So yeah, as you touched on, there's been some rumors and speculation out in the wild, courtesy of folks like Special Nick of Xbox Era and Jez Corden of Windows Central, basically saying that Diablo 4 is coming in April of 2023. So they've pointed to some sources that they've talked to. They've pointed to some documents and texts that they've seen that suggest that potentially Diablo 4 is dropping in April. And I will say that seems kind of in line with what I was expecting. I believe the initial targets were actually this holiday season. I think if everything had gone according to plan, that would have been the goal. That would have been the launch date. But obviously, things are in flex across the board. All publishers, all developers. That's why we're not getting dates as far out anymore, because you can't really commit to dates that far out anymore. Just a lot of variables. And so Diablo 4 reportedly rumored to come out on April 23rd, April 2023. That being said, after Jez Corden put out this report, Mike Ybarra of Blizzard put out a tweet that said, "Don't believe everything you read." And that was it. So I don't know if he's throwing shade at Jez and that report there, but Mike
because
Ybarra,
it's earlier.
That's the dream. Let's Q1, baby. Let's go. But then we have the whole Activision Blizzard situation. And if it's earlier, maybe the deal's not closed. And then maybe it's not coming in Game Pass. Because that's what everybody wants. Everybody wants that big, juicy Game Pass launch. That's kind of where we're at. The situation is Diablo 4 could potentially come in April. But I think regardless, it's safe to say that Diablo 4 is coming the first half of next year.
I agree. I mean, the the April release date, yeah, it could hit. We hit from I've talked to a couple of people who actually played the beta, and they said it. They all said it independently. It's already in a very polished state. There were not really that many issues that they encountered in the closed beta. Apparently, also an open beta is coming. By the way, also part of the rumors that the pre-orders will get an open beta in February. So, but I'm with you, Miles. I do have the feeling that they might. Do you think it's a potential that they might hold off Diablo for a month or two just to close the deal and then sweeten that announcement of, yeah, we are now one family, and by the way, here's Diablo Day 1 in Game Pass and PC.
Here's what I'll say. I would say don't expect it to launch in Game Pass. That way, if it does, it'll be a nice surprise. But I'm anticipating that I might have to pay $70 for Diablo 4. That's where I'm at. I'm mentally prepared to pay $70 for Diablo 4, but a Game Pass drop would be great. I'm so grateful that it potentially is coming past February or March, because due to fiscal years closing, everybody in the world says, okay, we're going to dump all of our biggest games in February and March. And then it's just this cluster of all these huge games we all want to play, and we all have to try to shell out hundreds of dollars or pick and choose the games we want to play. And I implore, I beg publishers, please space it out. Don't do that to us. You don't have to compete like that head to head. I understand that you have your goals, you have your deadlines, but please spread it out a little bit.
Yeah, I think some of them will. There will be games that will just slip in the second half or back half of 2023. We've talked about this, I think, last week or 2 weeks ago, Dutch, when I said I feel like Forza is such a candidate that will not hit that like first half of 2023 window. But yeah, what do you think about Diablo? Do you think that they might want to use that as a day one game for the announcement of the ABK acquisition?
You would think they could. I don't know who's got the marketing rights currently on it, which of course naturally would be potentially one of the only stumbling blocks. But I wouldn't imagine it would be PlayStation that has Diablo's marketing rights. I don't think that would be an issue. If anybody had the marketing rights, it would be someone on PC like Epic or Steam or something like that.
Yeah. I believe it's appeared in a couple Xbox shows so far. Not to say that they have marketing rights, because that stuff is complicated, but it has shown up on Xbox's stage a few times.
Yeah, indeed.
So I would say that aside, marketing rights aside, and who has that, there's no reason why they couldn't, I suppose. Whether they choose to delay it for that reason, I don't know, or whether or not they just drop it in Game Pass regardless of whether or not it goes through, because of increased kind of relationship between the two. So we'll see. We can live in hope, because the beginning part of next year is packed full of games.
Yeah. And especially like the big games. You know, it's like we won't get these games that you will finish in 10 to 15 hours. We have like Hogwarts Legacy, which will be a massive, massive game. Yeah, Wolong, massive game. Of course, Diablo, Starfield, hundreds of hours of gameplay right there. Age of Empires, the console release, and so on. So yeah, it's big times. Big games, not big times. So yeah, it will be interesting to see. But besides Diablo, there was a little bit of talk about a game that I'm also very excited, but I feel it's not a 23 game, and that is Mass Effect. Have you guys seen that the other day? Well, let me bring everyone up to speed. Like, we had N7 Day, of course, a couple of days ago. And BioWare released a cryptic teaser for Mass Effect 4, and they put out a few statements about the game. They said that the game's pre-production is going very well, and I want to quote now: "Since we last spoke about the next Mass Effect game, pre-production development has been proceeding very well. The team comprised of Mass Effect franchise veterans, as well as some amazing new additions to BioWare, has grown steadily, and we can't wait to show you more. So, kind of sounds like some of the old developers are still working on the IP, and we get some, and the pre-production is going well. So, where's your excitement level for Mass Effect, and when do you think we will finally see the game, and when should we expect the game? Let's go to our guest first, of course.
Oof. Okay. So yeah, infamously, I'm not the biggest Mass Effect fan. So I'll start there. I don't have a problem with the franchise. It's
Where is the kick out button here?
Exactly. It's a cardinal sin. I get roasted for it every time I mention it. I think it's fine. Okay. I think it's a fine franchise. I love that people love it, but I've tried a few times, haven't really connected with the franchise. So my hype levels for Mass Effect 4, I will say, are pretty much nothing. But that being said, it is nice to know that things are moving along, because when this was revealed, it was that weird, just this exists.
Yes.
Mass Effect, a new one. It's happening, and we're getting more and more of those. And when you get one of those, it's safe to say that like pre-production maybe hasn't even begun yet. Like somebody just gave the green light, so we're gonna announce it. So that makes me feel like Mass Effect 4 is maybe 2 years off. Maybe we'll see gameplay for it in late 2023, 2024 is kind of what I would expect, based on the fact that they're talking about pre-production, based on the fact that they're talking about these teases. We still have a little road to get to Mass Effect, but I want to see BioWare land just an undeniable hit, because they've come off the back of Mass Effect Andromeda and Anthem. Yeah. And so their recent history hasn't been great, and it's shaken the confidence of a lot of fans, and a lot of the key people have left. So now there's all these question marks about the future and the quality of the studio. So I really want Mass Effect and the new Dragon Age to come out and just be hits and really deliver for fans, because those franchises, as much as I don't really love Mass Effect, people love Mass Effect. People talk about Mass Effect.
I do. I think it's one of the best trilogies ever made.
Yeah, exactly. People fight about whether Mass Effect 1 or 2 is the greatest game of all time.
That's no fight. No. That's obviously 2. So
I have no horse in that race. But yeah, I agree. Mass Effect 2 better. But so I just want this to come out however long it takes and be something that doesn't have that baggage connected to it. Because you have people who, said they liked Anthem and said they liked Mass Effect Andromeda.
Yeah.
But there was so much negative noise surrounding it. Whether you liked it or not, there was just so much negativity surrounding those projects. And I want them to have that unquestionable hit. And so, like I said, probably 2024, 5-ish is what I'm expecting.
Yeah, I was hoping about that as well. But then they said, well, they are going to show Dragon Age this year and give us a full game reveal this year. And so far, we haven't seen anything. So if it's not going to happen at the Game Awards, which I kind of doubt. Do you think, Dutch?
Maybe.
You think?
Yeah, there's a good chance. I think, of course, we always talk about Game Awards when it comes to first party, but third party are always there in force as well. So there's a huge chance. And if they've kind of mentioned that you might see something this year, that is the only big stage left to show a game off. We know Jeff has pulled some pretty big surprises off in recent years, of course. Obviously, prominently, we had the launch of the Series X, essentially, on screen, and Hellblade's both gameplay and unveiling of the sequel.
Perfect Dark was also shown there.
Yeah, absolutely. It could be announced or shown off there. I am absolutely with Miles, though. I'm not a big Mass Effect fan.
Oh no!
Where do I get these
the
gamers?
The Mass Effect fans are gonna blow this chat and comment section up.
Oh god, yeah. I've much like Miles. I've attempted on many occasions to try and get into them. My best friend's a huge Mass Effect fan. I'm a game share buddy with him as well. So when the game came out, he wanted the new remastered trilogy, so that's on there, and I've tried to play that as well. Even still can't really get it. I think it was just I knew how many hours he put into it, and thinking, I just don't have time for that. Like when you already know how big the game is before you get into it, and I'm just like, nah. And I wasn't really like enjoying it to that extent anyway, to know that I've got to put that much time in. And then, of course, I tried Mass Effect Andromeda when that originally launched, and I think I played maybe a good 15, 20 hours on that, and then just put it down and never picked it back up again. So I'm excited to know that they're giving the franchise another shot after Andromeda, because that was not
Actually,
their
I
greatest
think
hour.
it wasn't too bad. Who said it in chat as well? I think it was Doom Reaper. Andromeda wasn't a bad game. It was just not on the same level like the trilogy. But
exactly.
if you try to play it on its own, it's still a good game.
Yeah. But when you compare it to the previous work, it just didn't live up to, should we say, expectations for what would have been their first big Mass Effect in a considerable amount of time.
Yeah.
And it just didn't live up to it. So, and that's unfortunate. But again, like Miles said, I'm glad that they're going back to it, and hopefully this time lives up to fan expectations.
Yeah, I hope so too. And let's hope that your statement about Dragon Age is also true, because we know that game will come first. And yeah, EA at the beginning of the year, I think it was in January or February, they promised that they're gonna show the game this year with a full reveal. So yeah, there's basically only the Game Awards left, and the Game Awards will be interesting this year. Honestly. What are your expectations? I don't want to make it a too big topic, but Miles, what do you think Xbox might show at the Game Awards? They really used that stage over the last years.
What will Xbox show at the Game Awards 2022? That's a really good question, because a lot of people coming off the back of this year, a lot of Xbox fans, I would say, I think it's safe to say, were very disappointed by the output of Xbox in 2022. They don't really have much to write home about. Grounded, loved it. One of my favorite survival games of all time.
I was so surprised. I played that game when it came out in early access, and wasn't for me. Like, I put it down after 2 hours, and now I love it. I build amazing forts. It's just fantastic.
Yeah, it's like, for me, I love the concept immediately. As soon as I got my hands on it, even though it was content light, I've played through everything that Grounded has had to offer in early access several times. Every time there's a big new update, my wife and I, we would go through and we'd replay through the entire bit of what was there. So I'm stoked that it's out. I'm stoked that more people can get that story that they wanted, because I think that was the big thing missing for a lot of players, is the overarching story. So Grounded is a standout. But when we look at Xbox this year at the Game Awards, when we look at 2023, we know stuff like Starfield's going to be launching in 2023. We know Redfall. We know Forza. So I think it's safe to say we get a gameplay splash for one of the ones that's definitely announced, that's definitely coming out in 2023. And then I would love to see an update for one of the other projects, whether it's going to be your Avowed, and whether it's going to be your Fable, whatever it might be. It sounds like some of those are still a ways off, and I know people don't want to hear that, but I think the reality is that I'm not really expecting Fable next year. And they announced that a while ago, and so people are like, where is Fable? What's going on? But I want some updates and some reassurance for the community on a few of those, even if they aren't coming out in 2023, some sort of thing that shows signs of life. Because again, people have a lot of question marks after 2022 about Xbox's output. So I hope they manage one surprise, because that's one thing that they've done consistently the last several years at the Game Awards, is having that big surprise reveal. So I'm hoping there's something that surprises fans, a new announcement of some kind. Whether that's the Kojima project, whether we see gameplay for that, whether it's a new, there's so many code names out now, so maybe the confirmation of one of those code names, but something to get fans excited about 2023 and beyond for Xbox would go a long way, I think.
Sweet. Quick guess from your side. How long has Fable been in development? I like to ask people that question, because it's insane if you think about it.
Yeah, it's been in development for a long time. I want to say pre-production maybe started in 2017 is what a lot of people speculated.
Pretty good. The first the first rumor we heard was from January 2017 that the IP has been given to a UK-based studio. And in fall 2017, Playground confirmed that they work on an action RPG and build a second team for that. So yeah, pretty good guess. Dutch, what do you think about the Game Awards?
Oof, this is what my hopes and what I think we'll see are two entirely different things. My hope.
Let's go.
My hope ultimately, and I think everybody knows this by now, but my hope ultimately is they've used the stage twice already for Hellblade. So why not round it off, make it a hat trick, and give us the release date for Hellblade 2 awards.
That would be a big one.
Yeah, makes sense. You may as well just finish off the trifecta and get the release date put up on there as well. Of course, sampled with some maybe combat gameplay, so one of the biggest things that they wanted to see change was the combat. We know they've put in a lot of work into refining the combat for the next one. So let's see some combat gameplay and a release date. Aside from that, I think the big one that a lot of people want to see, and we've spoke about it just a second ago, is Fable. I think a lot of people really want to see Fable now. We all trust Playground. We've had numerous people at Xbox, high ups. I think it was not Mike Ibarra. I was going to say Mike Ibarra there, but it's not. What's Matt Booty? I think it was Phil Spencer mentioned it.
Yeah.
Matt Booty.
And also Major Nelson.
Major Nelson. They've all mentioned they've seen the game. It looks amazing. They think it's ready to show, but the studio says not yet. So I think it's obviously into a position now where the hierarchy are going, this looks really good, and I really want to show this off. The studio are just going, it's not to our Forza high standards, so we're going to wait until it's at that point and then show it. But I do trust that studio. And again, you've got certain studios in the world. When you talk about Sony Santa Monica, you talk about Insomniac, you talk about the Playground Games team, you talk about Coalition. You know when you see their game, it's going to look great, it's going to play great, it's going to be really well optimized. So you never really have any issues with those things. So it's more just a case of, will this be the Fable we've always wanted, and how good have they done kind of character animations and things like that? But I think the time is now. I think showing off Fable would be an awesome kind of round off to the year. They're my kind of two major ones. I think as a bonus, maybe give the release date for Forza, which we're expecting in the first half of 2023. So give that release date maybe as well. But I think those three, would be a good round off. 2 release dates and a little gameplay segment for Fable.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you on Fable. It's kind of weird that like every executive as of late mentions in their interviews Fable. Phil, like you said, Matt Booty, Major Nelson. I think there was someone else from Xbox mentioned it recently. So it could definitely be. We also don't know about any of the release dates. I expect them to drop at least 1 or 2 of them, like a Starfield and maybe a Redfall announce a release date, because at some point they have to announce them if they come out in the first half of the year. So why not use this big stage? And that's the thing about the Game Awards. The Game Awards is like this stage where you get to see, or where gamers that are not as invested in the Xbox ecosystem get to see Xbox stuff. That's really different with like the Xbox Showcase. The Xbox Showcase is for Xbox fans. I would bet that most people that watch the Xbox Live Showcase are already customers and fans of the brand. But the Game Awards is a more general audience. You have like PC gamers watch that, PlayStation fans, Nintendo's fans, or just casuals watch the Game Awards. So it's like really a different audience. And that's why Xbox has done stuff like announce a new console, like show Hellblade gameplay, which looks just insane. Like you wanna have like that wow moment. So Fable could be that. Following their tradition, after announcing CGI trailers and then showing gameplay with Hellblade, they did that like 2 years ago. They showed the CGI trailer, or 3 years ago, 2019, and then last year they showed gameplay. Then they also announced Perfect Dark with a CGI trailer, and maybe they give us a glimpse of that now, just like they did with Hellblade. I don't know, but I think it will not be like a smaller game, a double A game or something. They will really show one of the bangers. So yeah, we shall see. It's only 4 weeks, guys. Only 4 weeks. Yeah. We mentioned Phil already. He talked about Fable, but he also talked about something else this week. And that is not... Well, it is adjacent to the Activision Blizzard discussion, but he talked about Starcraft. And I think if we ask around which IP should Xbox revive once they acquire ABK, like Starcraft will be the number one. And he talked about Starcraft, and I want to read from that interview and quote him. He says, not only Starcraft, but also Warcraft. When you think about the heritage of RTS games that we are talking about here, specifically from Blizzard, and I don't have any concrete plans today because I can't really get in and work with the teams, but Starcraft was a seminal moment in gaming, right? From an esports perspective, from an RTS and console perspective, and from just an RTS storytelling perspective in the genre. I'm excited about getting to sit down with the teams at Activision Blizzard and King to talk about a back catalog and opportunities we might have. So, of course, Phil can't announce anything before they acquired ABK, but obviously he's excited about Starcraft, bringing it back. So what do you guys expect? Like full-on reboot of the IP, or like a remake, a remaster, something like that? Miles, let's hear you first.
Yeah, so obviously Blizzard and Activision in particular have a huge back catalog of stuff that's just sitting around. Unfortunately, the current structure of Activision Blizzard is to do as few projects as possible and just invest all of your time and resources into your Call of Duty, which, as Dutch said, that made $1 billion. That's a guaranteed money maker, baby. Why would we bother with StarCraft when we can just pump out Call of Duty year after year after year? So I'm excited about the possibilities of using, because really, for me, the benefit of Game Pass when it comes to me as a player, obviously there's the value, but it opens up possibilities for smaller scale projects or experimental projects that wouldn't exist otherwise, because you can't charge $70 for a StarCraft experiment in this day and age and assume it's going to do incredibly well, because the franchise has been dormant for a long time. StarCraft 2, good Lord, when did that come out?
Wait,
was that?
I want to say at least 15 years.
15 years? Yeah, it's been a long time. It's been a long... People who are playing video games right now probably haven't even heard of StarCraft. So you have to entirely rebuild that brand identity. So I think a good strategy would be to do like what Age of Empires did. Do some definitive editions of StarCraft 1 and 2. Boom. Get those out on modern machines, updated. I know StarCraft 2 is still very playable on PC, but bring those to some more platforms. And then I want to see them revisit stuff like StarCraft Ghost. What I want to see, as I touched on earlier, I'm not the biggest RTS fan, but I love the world of StarCraft. I want to see some experiments in that universe, much like we've seen with Warhammer 40K. They've done a lot of stuff that has not been an RTS that's been really good and really cool. So that's what I want to see from the Blizzard verse moving forward. Take some risks, do some new things. Don't try to do the same thing and make it look shinier. Really get in there and evaluate how you can experiment with this space. And I hope those are the conversations happening behind the scenes with stuff like StarCraft. Bring it back, obviously. Position yourself for StarCraft 3, the big official comeback. But also branch out, try to pull in more players. So maybe when StarCraft 3 hits, it'll be a bigger deal.
Yeah, I mean, it still saddens me that Ghost never came out. Yeah, honestly, that looked so good at its time. And yeah, I think what you said about like the definitive editions of StarCraft 1 or 2, I think those are the easy wins and the quick wins you can bring to get people excited about the IP again. Because like developing a new full-on StarCraft will take like 5 years. And we will see that then launch on the next gen consoles. So yeah, it's definitely something that they could do within a year or something, like really, or maybe 1.5 years. I don't know, but like a quicker win and excitement for the IP. Dutch, what do you think? What they might do with StarCraft?
Yeah, I mean, they could go for, I would say, quick wins, but it would still take them a good year to get it done. But do maybe a remaster of the previous one to kind of get people back on the wagon, or looking at what the game's about, with an announcement alongside it that, of course, they're bringing back a reboot of StarCraft franchise, as opposed to StarCraft 3, like you said, kind of just they will have to start from scratch. It's been that long. There is the fan base that was on StarCraft have all fractured off and went elsewhere now. So you need to rebuild that brand. You need to rebuild the fan base again. So now's a better time. Well, better time than now anyway to start from scratch, reboot the game entirely, and create something truly special for the fans. Yeah, it's but from the whole deal anyway with the acquisition. We've said it from the start. You've got everybody working on Call of Duty. It's going to be nice to see Toys for Bob work on new things and get them working on Crash Bandicoot and Spyro and things again. Get them working on awesome crossovers and titles with Banjo Kazooie and things like that. You've got these awesome Xbox kind of family-friendly games that the IPs that I haven't been able to use for years or do anything with. And now you've got Toys for Bob, who did such a great work.
Tony Hawk, man.
Yeah.
You need to bring back Tony Hawk.
Tony Hawk again, yeah.
In the right way.
And the remaster of 1 and 2 was really well done. Really, really good.
Oh, yeah.
One of the kind of benefits in the remaster was the fact that it was, instead of like you're stumbling about just when you fell off the board, you just like appeared back on it.
Yeah.
You kind of just fuzzed back on. It was much quicker to get it back into the game and didn't waste your times that you had for kind of timed runs and things. So they did a great job with that. Again, it's unfortunate that the way that a lot of the studios are being ran there is just you're all working on Call of Duty because that's the one that makes money. So kind of drained them of all, should we say, creativity. And I'm just looking forward to getting all them studios being creative again and having fun and working on cool games that they want to work on again. And maybe Xbox go to these studios and go, look, this is a whole bunch of IPs. We want you to kind of have a good brainstorm in the studio and decide which of these IPs you want to go for, because there's a lot. Or do you want to create something new? Like Toys for Bob, like I say, they've done a great job on Crash Bandicoot and Spyro and things like that. So give a whole boatload of IPs. Say, okay, you've got Crash, you've got Spyro, but you've also got Banjo Kazooie, you've got this and this and this and this. What do you want to do? Or do you want to do them all? Do you want to do some weird mashup fighter or some weird new card game that you want to create by yourself for a change? Or like, have fun. But I'm just looking forward to seeing the studios be a little bit more, let their creative reins go again.
Creative again, yeah. Like you said, Call of Duty is the thing that makes the money, and maybe we use that as a segue, because Modern Warfare 2 topped $1 billion in sales in 10 days. So it's the most successful Call of Duty to date. Like $1 billion in 10 days, guys. That's insane.
And that's without microtransactions. That's without any skins you can buy yet. That's without the season pass being launched until next week. That's like that's an
crazy
amount of money made from literally the base game.
Indeed. So that's really crazy. And we heard a while ago that next year we won't get a proper Call of Duty. Of course, we will get Warzone 2 next year. That we won't get a proper full Call of Duty game. But this week, Activision has actually confirmed that a full premium Call of Duty release is planned for 2023. And they said Activision is looking forward to building on its current momentum in 2023 with plans for next year, including the most robust Call of Duty live operations to date, the next full premium release in the blockbuster annual series, and even more engaging free-to-play experience across the platform. And then there's this other guy on Twitter, Jason Schreier. I wasn't able to read the full tweet because for some reason I don't know why I'm blocked. Honestly, I never ever
the blocked club. You out there stirring the pot.
Yeah, 100%.
I swear to you, I've never ever commented on anything with him, not once, and that alone, I hope I have never insulted anyone on Twitter. If people piss me off, I just ignore them. I don't get into fights on Twitter or anything, but for some reason I'm blocked. He's probably got its reasons. I don't know.
Yes,
but
I was going to say he does block trees. So if you're associated with somebody he's blocked, you usually get blocked along with them.
That could be. That of course could be. Are you blocked?
Oh yeah, God, yeah, I've been blocked for about 2 years.
I'm so far not blocked. No,
you're not blocked. So you probably you were able to read his official tweet where he actually claimed that it's not gonna be a standalone game next year in Call of Duty. It's gonna be a premium DLC.
Ooh.
Whatever that is supposed to be. So yeah, what do you think? By the way, Stuff John says in chat, I insult him all the time. Yeah, that's just because you don't get your lighting right in your streams, dude. All right, but Miles, Call of Duty next year. Will we see like a premium DLC, a full release? What do you make of this? Jason seems to be very convinced that it's not a full game release.
Yeah, we're in a time where it's getting harder and harder to maintain the Call of Duty machine. The annual Call of Duty, as we've seen with like Vanguard and some of the like Black Ops 4 cutting campaign last minute, they're even with all of their teams, even with every team possible working on Call of Duty, it's hard to maintain that once a year. That's a brutal timeline to release a AAA game. So we've heard Microsoft talk about post-acquisition, if this all goes through, that they're going to move away from that. And I think that's the smart move. You don't have to put out a new mainline entry every year. You don't have to. But also, Call of Duty made $1 billion. So they want to have some sort of way to keep that money going. So here's what they're going to do. Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2:2. And it's just
see what you did there.
It's just gonna be I'm curious, are they gonna paywall maps? Are they gonna paywall content? If it's gonna be an upgrade and a premium experience, we've seen so many companies move away from map packs because it separates the player base.
Yeah,
I guess I'll pose a question to you guys and the chat. What upgrade to you would justify $60-$70 if this is just going to be an upgrade, an enhancement, a little supplemental pack? What is going to have you pull out that wallet and say, here's $60?
That's a good question. I mean, I think single player content is always important. We've seen Call of Duty tried it. We've seen Battlefield tried it. And those entries were just not successful. So I feel like some sort of single player content is definitely necessary. And it should not have less content than the base game that launched this year in terms of the amount of maps and modes. And so what do you think, Dutch?
Yeah, I'm under the impression that it's because obviously we had the well-rumored there is no main game next year and they're going to instead do a campaign expansion. So, of course, kind of continue the story that you had in this one. And of course, if you watch the end, or at least when you get to the end of the story, you know, of course, that it's not quite the end of where that went. So they're obviously going to do that paid expansion. There was a few of the missions from the original that they've kind of teased in coming back, like No Russian, for instance. Doing that one again. And of course, we know circumstances at the moment that might be a bit more tricky to try and navigate to get out. But they're definitely working on it. So, and that was the kind of teaser. So that No Russian teaser that you've seen floating around Twitter was actually the end of the game. It was one of the post-credit scenes where it dunks the phone into the drink on the plane, and you just see the words "No Russian" on there. So that was one of the post-credit scenes. But again, we're looking at definitely expansion for the campaign next year. I think that's going to be the premium. Call of Duty don't paywall maps. What they do is just paywall all the skins and guns, level ups and things like that. So there's going to be an abundance of things like that coming out over the next year. Warzone 2 does, you were right the first time, Warzone 2 does release next week along with the season 1.
It does?
It does, yeah. Al Mazrah is the map.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
So yeah, they've got an abundance of things already releasing next week. But they will continue, I think, to support this with an abundance of maps as well. Yeah. We've already seen a lot of the classic Modern Warfare 2 maps have been like from all these different Call of Duty specific kind of intel websites and things like that do their data mining and stuff. There's been a lot of the historic Modern Warfare 2 maps confirmed and rumored to come out again. So we know they've got a lot of maps lined up for next year. So
yeah,
I don't think they'll paywall any maps behind it. But we know they make countless amounts of money specifically just on the weapons and things like that. So I think you might have some special weapons, some special skins, things like that locked behind a paywall, but I think that's about it.
I do have my own theory. I will put that out in a second, but I briefly want to read a super chat coming from Drawn TJ. Thank you so much for the $5. He says, Victorious Vision is a remaster studio in Activision. They can bring back Vigilante V8. Yeah, man. I haven't heard that game in a while, but that would definitely be something that needs to be remastered because it was fantastic back in the days. I think I played that, if I remember correctly, on the N64. So it's been a while. It's been a while. About Call of Duty, I think Jason might be right in the sense that that was a plan at some point. But with the success of Modern Warfare 2, I don't think that anything you can put out as a DLC has the same oomph like a full release. And when you ride on a success wave like this year with Modern Warfare 2, you definitely want to continue that. And so you basically, even though it was maybe designed as a DLC, you just slap a full release on it because it's different when you have a full Call of Duty release than whatever you name the premium DLC. So I'm not sure if they're gonna do that or if they will just whatever the DLC is make it a full new game.
I think one thing that does might factor into it as well is what potential discussions Microsoft and Activision have had about this for a forward plan. Bearing in mind, of course, that it's not closed as yet, but should it close in time?
It's an interesting question, man. Do you think that they already do I don't know, behind the door strategic discussions? Absolutely. Or do you think they will play it safe? Because you know that when stuff like that leaks, that they do that before they are officially part of the company. that this will be will make the acquisition at least a lot harder.
Yeah,
I think they'll have off-the-record discussions, absolutely. There's certain main actual meetings you'll have, but off-the-record discussions, there'll be a lot of those. A lot. That won't be meetings with minutes, should we say, which is the easiest way to describe them.
Yeah.
Meetings with minutes are on the record, and kind of everybody kind of pays attention to them. They're recorded. Of course, if you've got, depending on if your meeting's face-to-face, you'll have somebody taking those minutes down. Otherwise, you'll have video conference calls, which are recorded conference calls, so they can obviously go back to those, and those are detailed. But I think with a deal like this, they will have off-the-record discussions and plans with each other. Of course, you would have had those discussions and plans prior to acquiring each other or acquiring the other company, because, of course, one of the purposes of those discussions, initial discussions, is what are we going to do going forwards with each other? What is the purpose of this merger? And what are our goals that we both want to achieve together going forward? As with any merger, that's what a company wants to hear, including the current bosses at Activision Blizzard. They want to say, okay, well, what are we going to be doing going forward then if we are acquired by Microsoft? What's going to be happening? X, Y, and Z, which is why you've also seen Phil Spencer speak about all these IPs that he wants to bring back, because those are very much in his thoughts. And those are very much discussions he'll have had with the teams there as well. And just like, I'm really looking forward to working with you guys. Like, I hope we can work on these IPs and things like that. So, yeah, like behind closed doors, off the record discussions, there'll be a lot of those. So I think they've got, should we say, contingent plans. If it goes ahead, then this is what we'll do. If it doesn't, then you can stick to your own format and do your own thing. But I think Microsoft really wants to get away from that annual release. And give the team
no doubt. I think they will also develop that more in a ongoing live service game, and then I don't know, every 3 years or so you have like that single player campaign as a proper full release or something.
And the multiplayer will be like, I agree, the multiplayer will go in line with a Fortnite or something in order to combat Fortnite. They'll make sure there's a good rotation of maps in there. They'll make sure there's big events. As we've seen with the previous Warzone, Kong versus Godzilla, and you had for Halloween the other year, you had that Halloween event in Warzone. So I think they're going to kind of, I think going forward anyway, the likes of Warzone and the multiplayer segment of Call of Duty could be a free-to-play segment. That is, but I wouldn't put it past them still tying that to the single player, so that you have to get the single player in order to get access to certain parts of the multiplayer. But Warzone, of course, will remain completely free. But I agree on the live service part of the multiplayer. I absolutely think Microsoft will have that in mind.
Miles, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it gets tricky because Microsoft legally can't influence the business of Activision Blizzard. So I absolutely believe they're having conversations about what this could mean, what we could potentially do. And I think that's the way they talk about IP and talk about the future of Call of Duty. But right now, there's not going to be any world where Microsoft is directly influencing, like, okay, guys, get this set up. So when we take over, that's already ready to go. Those kind of things, it's so delicate. Maybe there are things happening behind the scenes to get that in order, but I think that's more to probably appease the shareholders than it is to, bow to Microsoft's whim or whatever the case might be. Because this deal is already under so much scrutiny, and if there was any sort of anything to amplify that, like Microsoft is already, I think, stressed about the likelihood of this deal going through. Obviously, it means a lot for their business if it does, but if it doesn't, they lose billions of dollars. So they get nothing.
The
and
lawyer costs alone, man.
Billions. And they're shelling out big money for some of the most premier lawyers that exist on this. So there's a lot going into it. And I see people say, like, okay, once the deal goes through, they flip a switch and then all these games are going to be in Game Pass. That's not quite how it works. They need, once that deal goes through, they can sit down and say, all right, what's the logistics of bringing all of these games to Game Pass? Those conversations legally can't happen. I don't know whether or not they're happening in some capacity, but legally you can't say, like, we're going to do this, because you don't own that company yet. So
I agree, and I think they will be careful, really careful, because when something like this leaks, like you said, it will make the approval process so much harder. Yeah. But please, I cut you off. I'm sorry.
Oh no, that was pretty much it. Pretty much it.
Okay. yeah. No, let's use that as a segue into the next topic, guys, because we got some updates on the Activision Blizzard scrutiny from the regulators. And this time from Europe. Europe announced that they launch an in-depth probe of the Microsoft and Blizzard acquisition. So here's what the EU had to say. The Commission is concerned that the proposed acquisition may reduce competition in the markets for distribution of consoles and personal computers, video games, and for PC operating systems. The European Commission has now 90 working days until March 23rd, 23, of course, to make a final ruling on the deal. So yeah, it's we all at some point early this year we hoped towards the end or very early next year we're gonna see the deal finalized. Now we've seen, of course, what happened in the UK with the CMA. They also have the deadline in end of March. The European Union has the deadline now end of March. So yeah, it will take a little bit longer than we all hoped for. But yeah, Miles, how do you feel about the ABK deal? Is it gonna go through, or will the EU, the UK, who knows, the FTC in the US put a bar behind this and cancel the deal?
Yeah, that's the burning question, and it's been the burning question for
an entire year,
an eternity. We're going to be talking about this until we're 45 years old. It feels like.
Indeed.
I am really curious to see how this all plays out. I think initially Microsoft expected it to take until next year because that's what they came out and said. They said they were expecting the deal to close in 2023. So I think they were prepared for the scrutiny. And I'm not honestly that surprised that there is scrutiny from certain markets, especially foreign markets, because there's been a lot of big tech in the US that have just kind of been able to run rampant in a lot of ways. And sure, it's different sectors than gaming. And sure, us who have Xbox Game Pass just want all these games in Xbox Game Pass. So we want the deal to go through for those reasons. And we want the deal to go through for the reasons that maybe these beloved IP and franchises that we haven't been able to get might return. Yeah. So there's a lot of good, exciting reasons that we want this deal to go through. But if you're another country looking at your Facebooks, looking at your Microsofts, looking at all these gargantuan companies in the US who are just buying up everything, I understand why they want to make sure that, this is all by the books and this is going to be a net positive for customers. And I think really why it's under so much scrutiny and why it's going to take longer is because we've never had a deal like this in the gaming space. And the gaming space, relatively speaking, is newer. And so a lot of these people are getting up to speed on all of these platforms, all these ecosystems. And I don't use ignorance as like a insult to any of these people. They just are really taking the time to get up to speed to make sure that they aren't making casual decisions. Because the reality is Microsoft, if they wanted to, if this deal went through without any sort of scrutiny or whatever, they could theoretically make all of these titles exclusive. They could theoretically put all of these titles in Xbox Game Pass, and they could theoretically position Xbox Game Pass specifically to be this subscription service that nobody can compete with, really. Yeah. Bundle that with the cloud gaming, where we saw Google, a tech giant, who has come out and basically had to throw in the towel with their game streaming service. And so, there's legitimate criticism of how they handle that entire business model. So I don't want to say that, it's one-to-one.
I mean, it was a lackluster effort, if we're honest.
But now we're in a position where Google could come out and say, well, if we can't compete, how can anyone else compete? And that's, again, I'm not saying that that's what they'll do, but they have the means to do that. And there would be a compelling argument for regulators in that sense. Because if Google, who is this giant, can't actually compete with Microsoft's cloud streaming, then who can? And so that's where these conversations come into play. And there's going to be a lot of people getting up to speed on how all of these markets operate. PlayStation Plus versus Xbox Game Pass, exclusivity arrangements, timed or full, and what that means, blah, blah. There's a lot of stuff that we know day to day because we talk about it every single day that they're getting up to speed with. So I'm not surprised that this is being scrutinized by the CMA or the EU, and I'm not surprised that it's going into 2023. But now it's coming to the point where I think it's still more likely than not that this deal will go through. But I think, more and more, it seems like maybe this deal won't go through in some capacity. I'm still of the mindset that I don't think, based on the current landscape of the industry, that this is a genuine concern, but the implications for what it means for the future, I think, might have some people skeptical about it. So I don't know. I'm of the camp that I think it still will go through, but it's getting more like 60-40 in my
eyes. I also feel like the deal will still go through, but there will be something weird attached to it. I have the feeling like one of these regulators, I don't know, the CMA in the UK or someone, will just put some weird thing as a attachment to the deal. So Dutch, what do you think about the EU and the timeline? Of course, now we hear 23rd of March is when the EU is gonna make the decision. Or how do you feel about the deal?
How do I feel about the deal? I'm sick of it. No, I'm just...
Can't blame you, dude. Can't blame you.
It's expected. It's the size of the deal is one of the largest transactions in takeover history. Never mind just tech. 70 billion is a significant amount for any company to be buying of anything. So of course it's going to go under increased scrutiny. We would have been more surprised if they just let this thing sail through without increased scrutiny. And I think there would have been more challenges from the governments worldwide if they had have just let it go without further scrutiny. It would have been more like, I think the governments would then have got involved and said, what? Like, you didn't scrutinize that at all. It's like a really large transaction. It affects a lot of people. So it is, of course, it needs increased scrutiny. Phase 1, for anybody who kind of isn't aware of what Phase 1 is, it's kind of just the basic inquiry stage. It's getting a good understanding of the deal and who it affects and to what effect. And does this propose a potential to harm either the competition or the marketplace? And even if it is a minor potential, that is warranted enough to take it to Phase 2. So, of course, this deal has the potential to harm competition. Will it harm competition? It's extremely unlikely. Outside of the monetary terms, only one company is going to be affected by this, and possibly another company is going to positively benefit from this, and that would be Nintendo, because Phil Spencer the other day mentioned his intentions to bring Call of Duty back to Nintendo. Of course, we haven't seen that on there since the Wii. So it's been a significant amount of time since we've had a Call of Duty on a Nintendo platform. Having that on Switch, I think, for them as well, would be a huge money spinner. Massive money spinner to get that franchise back on Nintendo. And we know Nintendo have eased off a little bit on the type of content that you could put on their console again. A long time ago, it was kind of strictly family-orientated games and things like that now, but that marketplace is full of horror games. And
I mean, Doom is now on the Switch,
exactly. So they'll have no problem putting Call of Duty on there these days. So yeah, it's kind of as much as Sony might lose a couple of customers, Nintendo will gain more customers. There's going to be more players on Call of Duty than ever before, with another kind of platform added to the list of places to play. The scrutiny is warranted, but there is positives and negatives to this deal. Ultimately, the negatives will be outweighed by the positives, I think, both from a we have to look not just on the consumer, but from a staffing point of view. It's going to be better working conditions for the staff. Microsoft, yet again this year, have been named in the top 5 best places to work in the world. So it is, of course, still a huge business and a great business to work for. They've had their own mega changes internally since kind of Phil Spencer took over, and even just before that, on getting their workplace inclusivity and everything like that, and their culture in order. Because of course Microsoft weren't squeaky clean. They had their fair share of problems and issues that they had to iron out internally as well, for discrimination and things like that. So they are, like I say, up there now, and I think that's going to be a massive positive effect for all of the working conditions and the health, the mental health for all the staff at ActiBliz. So I think when they weigh up the pros and the cons of this deal and how it affects the overall landscape and things like that, it's going to go through fine. Even I was going to say the UK is the one that I'm more confident on now. The reason I say that is there was a bit of news that came out today, actually. Completely separate market altogether, but it just shows how what the UK is like for scrutinizing things at the moment. So a very large energy supplier went into administration last year. 1.5 million customers, of course, are now without a supplier. The government themselves allocated a supplier to take over. We got the news, and that's been going on for a while. So the government themselves have allocated that supplier to take over those customers following the collapse of that company. And the news today is that is now going to further scrutinization to ensure that that is fair for the market. Even though the government themselves has applied that particular supplier, that's also being scrutinized. So I have got full confidence now that the UK will be okay, because I think it is just sheer due diligence that they're going through this practice just to double check that everything will be okay. But yeah, it's. I think we've mentioned this before as well, Boxy, but the EU and the UK were pretty much on par with the way that they think and the way that they act up until before Brexit, and I think they're still kind of on the same wavelength as to how they operate and how they come to the conclusions. So I think we'll see, and we've seen some really strange comments from the EU as well, mind, specifically with regards to operating systems. Like that one made no sense, but we've seen them both make some very strange comments that don't really make much sense as to how it would affect the overall landscape. But yeah, grand scheme of things, I think it's still going through. I think I'm a little bit higher than Miles. I'm still 75 to 25.
75. Oh, okay. Gotcha. I love that prediction, man. Let me briefly say a big thank you to Tron TJ, super generous community member here. Again, he says they can port over World of Warcraft and they can remake Brute Force and Prototype. Yeah, man, especially World of Warcraft will be very interesting to see. If they will put that in Game Pass or not, and how they will handle those subscriptions. That will be an interesting one. But let's stay on Xbox for a bit. Miles, there's this weird news outlet called Windows Central Gaming or something, and they put up an article this week that I want to use as a starting point for the discussion, and that is that Xbox is apparently investigating if they want to consider letting players reduce game performance to save energy. There's a survey currently going around on the Xbox Insider app that asks players about energy efficiency, where they want to investigate that. So what do you think about this? Do you want on your Xbox, like, that energy saving mode instead of the performance mode that will give you now 30 FPS at 1080p to save some energy?
It's really interesting. It's a nice option, I think, because I'm, my wife and I we're very eco-conscious. We've been making a lot of decisions at home with, reducing our reusable stuff and eliminating disposable things where we can, and trying to do our little part And if this is another option to do that where it makes sense, I think it is a great option, as we've seen with a lot of gamers, if you will.
Yeah.
They want that performance. They want that raw power. And so I don't know that a ton of players will opt in to use it, but it looks good. Probably as a tax write-off, if we're being honest here. But ultimately, it is cool. It is cool that people care, because the reality is, as much as my wife and I have changed the way we live and changed the way that we do things, a lot of companies haven't. A lot of companies haven't changed, and so my fundamental life changes are being absolutely overshadowed by these companies who don't care. All of the crypto miners, all of those crypto bros out there just with 50 graphics cards running 24/7 are absolutely destroying any hope of me making a difference. So I hold a lot of these companies very accountable when it comes to these sort of things, because they are the ones who can realistically make the most impact. They are the ones fundamentally who are drawing the most power, producing the most waste, especially compared to my household with just my wife and I and our pets. So it is a nice option. I do applaud Microsoft's commitment to making that a part of their business, switching the plastic that they use for their controllers to make it more sustainable and recycled material. Stuff like that is important.
Yeah.
I know we don't care about it all the time, and it's hard to care about everything all the time, but I think we all could do a little bit better about caring more than we do about certain things. So
Indeed.
that's where I'm at. Will I use it? I don't know. I will see. We'll see how dramatic, because we've had all this game's only 30 FPS debates. What?
Yeah.
So if it means the difference between 60 and 30, am I gonna flip the switch? I don't know. That's tough. That's a tough question.
Yeah, I actually I thought about this probably a little bit more than I should have, but I was like this week really thinking about this. Would I flip the switch? Because much like you, Miles, my wife and I, we also tried to do certain things. For instance, we got rid of our second car, and I decided to go by bike to work, like stuff like that, But yeah, when it comes to my gaming, I'm not sure. If I would, yesterday evening I started, God of War, the big OLED screen, and obviously it's not on Xbox, but it doesn't matter. Yeah, if I love the 60 FPS, and I love that I have the option to put that check mark on favor quality with performance, and I'm not sure. What about you, Dutch?
Yeah, I mean, being someone that works in energy, it's thankfully I know the tips and tricks to reduce overheads and things like that with it. So I get asked these questions a lot anyway in my day to day. How can I do X, Y, and Z, and what's the best way to do this, and this? Because there's a lot of people that put out silly things. Ultimately, what it'll be, and it's not far off what Miles is saying with tax write-off, but ultimately, companies like Microsoft, like Apple, etc., have all signed up to strict guidelines to reduce their carbon footprint worldwide by certain amount by 2030. Of course, they have to achieve those, or they have large fines imposed for not achieving those targets. And Microsoft have been very diligent in actively across the board, not just Xbox, but across the board, looking at ways and means of reducing their overheads, and looking at battery storage, and looking at self producing and renewables and things like that. So proactively, Microsoft are doing a lot for energy reduction and offering consumers to help lower their overheads, which will also, of course, it'll present them in a good light as well to those looking in on them that have imposed these kind of energy reductions regulation worldwide. So they'll be saying, okay, Microsoft not only are doing this, but they're also giving consumers the ability to actually reduce kind of performances of their games in order to reduce energy consumption, which means, of course, their products that they're selling are more energy efficient across the board. And even though you've got eco mode on the consoles, we know that doesn't make a grand difference on there, to be honest.
That's also something I changed. Actually, I always had mine on like the standby mode, so that the updates and stuff get downloaded in the background. I turned that off. It annoyed the hell out of me for a week or so, so I turned it back on. Because whenever I wanted to start a game, I had to first download something.
It's the difference is like, it's not even 100 kilowatts a year. And when you calculate the kind of cost that is, it's like $5-6 a year. Like, do I want to be able to just have no hassle?
Yeah.
Or do I do I pay $6 in a year for this extra energies? I think I'll stick with the $6 extra.
A colleague of mine, he said, well, he's already playing eco-friendly because he's playing on console, and he's not right. What he meant is because another guy in the discussion, he was bragging about getting in like the 4080 now, and say, okay, you can.
I'm not buying a 4090, so I'm
there you go.
I got my streamlined Xbox Series X over here. The petite power consumption.
Yeah,
exactly.
So,
and that's it. Consoles are already minor. Nintendo Switch's usage is next to nothing because, of course, not only is it you just recharge it and then you take it off and it's got power for like an hour and then you have to recharge it again. But outside of that, there's minimal you can do. I mean, we can all see here the way we've got our gaming setups. I usually just like to try and leave kind of big lights off and just use nice LEDs and things because they have very low energy consumption, but they also give enough light in the room for it not to be too dark. So yeah, it's basic stuff. If anybody really wants to reduce the consumption, just switch to LED lights. Don't have your big lights on in the winter and things if you can. Just put lamps on with LED lighting or even backlighting like me and Miles have got there. That'll save you a small fortune in itself. Simple. And your consoles are going to heat the room up anyway, so you don't need heating. So
yeah, exactly. I have a heater in my corner, never use it. Got my Xbox Series X, my PC over here, just blasting out heat.
See, Tron DJ, he sends in another $5 super chat. He says, I don't buy a high power console for $500 to put in energy saver mode. Yeah. We want that gaming experience with the horsepower and
you buy the hot FPS. Rod, you want to feel that horsepower,
exactly.
Bro.
It is like it is. Yeah, indeed. I rather save the energy.
That's why I drive a Kia Soul. No expectation for power. It barely goes up hills.
Just make sure you've got a good stiff breeze behind you.
Try to get some momentum before you hit it.
Yeah.
I love it, guys. What else do I want to talk about? Halo, the big Halo update. The winter update is here. 343 said the following: the winter update marks a major step forward for our game and studio, but this is just the first step of that evolution. The team is actively working on key player experience priorities across the game to address areas of feedback, and we are targeting another game update before the end of this year. Your support is greatly appreciated, and we can't wait to turn this corner with all of you in 2023 as we look to shorter seasons, a more regular stream of content, and bigger things to come. So, Miles, the winter update. I think that the thing I've seen people talk about most is, of course, Forge. There are also 2 new maps, a couple of other things. You think that's enough to bring, the bigger player base back to Halo? Or will they be able to do that with the other updates that they announced for the end of the year next year?
I think this is a good, like they said in their blog post, a good turning point for Halo Infinite. I think for a lot of players, it's probably not enough to make them say, oh, I have to play Halo right now, especially when it drops the week of stuff like God of War Ragnarok and other gargantuan games that are absorbing the conversation. That being said, laying the foundation for Forge, getting campaign co-op in, which for me, that was a huge deal. Like I was so disappointed and bummed that the game launched without campaign co-op. So I have a buddy who started playing the campaign and he's like, I'm not going to finish this without co-op. I just don't care. So he put it down for basically a full year. And so we're going to play through the campaign and he's going to beat it for the first time. So I think there are going to be friends who have been waiting for that, and that'll bring them back to the campaign. Obviously there's going to be some new battle pass stuff to play. I guess not a new battle pass, but some progression. And for the hardcore players who want something, who are still playing it every single day, that is cool for them. I'm just hoping that with this kickoff and this foundation, we start to build back up positive momentum for Halo. Because Halo Infinite, as we all know, I'm sick of talking about it. You're sick of hearing about it. It didn't deliver what it needed to do for year one. The launch was great. We were all stoked. The launch
and the core gameplay on point. One of the best.
The best feeling Halo. One of the best feeling first-person shooters of all time. Everyone was very high on it. And then after about a month, the conversation just took a nosedive, and everyone was so negative about the monetization, which I agree. I wrote editorials about it. I talked about it. I thought the monetization was very bad, especially when you look at every other free-to-play game. Every other game is a service game that exists. They ignored everything for some reason. So they learned some hard lessons this year, and I'm hoping as we move into next year that Halo Infinite has more positivity surrounding it, because I love Halo. I'm so tired of talking about how Halo's disappointing. Halo doesn't have this. Halo doesn't have that. I'm not rushing back to play it with this winter update. I'm definitely going to be playing the co-op campaign. But when it comes to multiplayer, I'm hoping the next official season is the start of what we can expect in terms of consistent updates, consistent rewarding content. But I have a reason to play Halo now, which I haven't played Halo in 6 months, outside of some casual one-off games here and there. But I started, the season 2 battle pass and played it for a week, and I was like, all right, I'm good. I have plenty of other stuff to play.
Yeah.
And it's going to be a hard sell for people like me. Again, I'm a big Halo fan. So it's not that I don't love Halo. I went into this loving Halo, and they still haven't given me a ton of compelling reasons to play. So they're going to have to work hard to win people back, but I think they can. And I think this is really the way, the shape the game should have launched in. But you live and you learn, right?
It is what it is with Halo, right? I mean, I agree with everything you said. I do hope that this is a turning point. I do have my doubts, honestly, that it will matter in 23. We already talked about it. We think about what comes out in 23. Halo will be 1.5 years old by the time. There's still just a lot of negativity surrounding the game, whether justified or not. But it's just what it is, and I'm not sure if they will be able to bring back a big player base. Of course, there will be the hardcores playing it, enjoying it, hopefully. But I just don't see it. That this game will make a turnaround in terms of player numbers and stuff. But I do hope I'm wrong, because, well, like we said, it's fantastic. What do you think, Dutch?
Yeah, I think the major thing for me, obviously outside of campaign co-op, I'm not in a rush to play campaign co-op either, to be fair. But the major thing
I would have played it if they had local split screen. Honestly, that's how I got into Halo, actually. I remember I lived in a shared apartment at the time, and my roommate brought in that big black box. At the time, Microsoft didn't do any marketing, so we knew there's this weird console in the US, but no one has ever seen or played anything on it. And then he brought that box back, and then we started playing, and the entire night, Halo split screen is just the way to go. And ever since, we played all Halos in local split screen with pizza and a box of beers, and it's just, I would love that to do that again with Halo Infinite. But yeah, man, but please continue.
Yeah, so for me anyway, it wasn't about the co-op. I'll play it again at some point, but I mean, absolutely no rush for it. really the likelihood is I'll be waiting for whenever the campaign expansion or DLC or whatever comes out for Infinite, and then jump back into it as co-op and play through the campaign and then the DLC in one foul swoop. But Forge for me is kind of the key identifier here as to what can really help revitalize the game. We already know that not only are 343 creating maps or recreating maps in Forge in order to bring them into circulation, but also community maps. The best community maps are also going into regular circulation as well. So that's going to add some much needed content, even in the short term. Even just before this show on Twitter, I saw they've already, there's a community creator that's already created Call of Duty map shipment in Forge, and that looks awesome. I was like, okay, see, straight away they've already got this nice little confined close quarters map to shoot everybody on and have fun. And then of course we've seen the Toy Story map, and we've seen
many of the classic Halo
Hobbit,
maps actually
Hobbiton,
have been.
We've seen from Lord of the Rings in there. There's so many awesome community created maps that are going in there, and of course we know some of the classic maps are being created by both community creators and the 343 team. So there's a lot of stuff coming up. As Miles pointed out, though, the one thing that they really need to do for a free-to-play game is completely redesign that storefront, because it is so bad. Like, you can't launch a free-to-play game or free-to-play multiplayer game and have next to no monetization in it.
Yeah.
Like, the monetization options in that game are pitiful. Like, you get one armor thing like a week or something ridiculous, and it's like, great. Okay, is that it? Like, and they don't leave any of them in. Just leave it all in. Just have a big marketplace, like you've seen what Sea of Thieves does. Sea of Thieves have got mountains of things you can buy, and they're always adding things in there, and they're always changing it. It's all cool, and they never take skins out of there unless it's like limited seasonal things like Halloween and things like that.
But the FOMO, dude, I remember waiting a full year to get Master Chief in Fortnite. Because when Master Chief first came to Fortnite, I was like, I don't want to pay $20 for Master Chief. I can wait, whatever. And then they took him away. And then I started playing it again. I was like, damn, I should have spent $20 on Master Chief. And the second it was in the store, I bought it because I'm a fool. They got me, but
I got Marcus Phoenix as well. Oh yeah,
I just bought Bruce Campbell. Ash from Evil Dead got added to Fortnite. Oh,
nice.
Why isn't Ash from Evil Dead in Halo Infinite? All right, that's the real question I need.
But there's so many crossovers that they could do, and they really need to start being a bit more proactive on the store or coming up with some ideas. But the store is empty, and for a free-to-play game, especially for people who want to show off the characters and things like that, you need to have options for skins, whether it's weapons or armor or something, and you need to have a nice full marketplace for them to do it. It's literally the only time we say microtransactions are all right is when it's cosmetic, because that's just someone wanting to personalize themselves and show themselves off and be different to other people. We don't like loot boxes. Everyone's agreed for that because, of course, it's a form of gambling and nobody knows what you're going to get. But when you're talking about skins on a free-to-play game, that is literally the only way to make money on a free-to-play game. You need a storefront that has content, and they just haven't. So I think 2023 or whatever it is, the actual next season, they need to just revamp that store in-game, get plenty of cosmetics in there, plenty of weapon skins and things like that, and keep it that way. Don't just have one at a time or the occasional one. But in terms of maps and content, I think Forge is really going to help them out going forwards. From an internal creativity point of view as well, I think it's going to speed up the process. Instead of having to kind of create maps from scratch, they're just going to use Forge to create the maps and bring them back in, which is going to speed up it significantly. There's a good chance they'll probably work and or kind of part employ some of these community creators and give them money for the maps that they create as well. There's a lot of the times that has been done.
Kind of like they do in Flight Sim. Yeah, I like that idea.
Yeah, Flight Sim, exactly.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. But obviously in Flight Sim it is literally paid DLC every time. Obviously with Forge it isn't the case, but they could of course just say, okay, well, for every huge map that we put into our creator thing, you'll get, or our curated playlist, then obviously you get paid for that map as well. So it could be incentive to get some awesome community maps put into the into that as well. And of course, it's like I say, at the end of the day, it's going to help, I think, speed up the process on getting new content to people.
Yeah.
So
For sure.
So yeah, huge stuff.
Yeah, good stuff. Good stuff. All right, gentlemen, and we are almost at the end of the show. And at the end of the show, it's always time to discuss the community questions.
Ooh, you're so good. Every day I hear the words from you.
All right, Miles, at the end of the show, we always answer a couple of community questions. People can write in on Twitter, on Xbox, on YouTube, wherever they want. Community questions, usually I collect them on Wednesdays, guys. And this week we got so many. I don't think we will be able to get to all of them, but we'll pick a few. Miles, this one is for you, the first. From Waller Weasel, he says, I've got a question for Miles. First of all, congratulations for acknowledging that Secret of Mana is the best game of all time. How would you bring back the Mana franchise to the modern era?
Okay. So slight correction. Legend of Mana, in my opinion, is the best.
I would agree. I agree with Waller Weasley. The Secret of Mana is my favorite.
It is. It's iconic. It basically created the action RPG genre as we know it today in a lot of ways. Incredibly important, incredibly beautiful. We know Square is working on a new mainline entry. As part of the anniversary series, they said they are working on a new entry for consoles, which I'm excited about. The series, unfortunately, has not gotten a lot of money or budget in a long time. The last several entries have been smaller scale, but things kind of took a turn when they remade Trials of Mana, and that game is pretty outstanding. It's definitely a budget title, but for its scope and scale, so good. Such a good action RPG and such a great way to experience that story. When it comes to bringing it back, one thing I was really disappointed by Trials of Mana, because for me, the series has always been about multiplayer. It's always been about co-op. You could play Secret of Mana with 3 players on Super Nintendo, which was wild. Getting the multi-tap out and playing 3-player Secret of Mana, come on. And then Legend of Mana 2, you can play the entire game in 2-player co-op. You could control NPCs, or you could import your own character and play with a friend. So I will hope that that is a pillar of this new entry, and they find a way to make it more of an online, ongoing thing. I don't need it to be a games as a service title, but I want to be able to grind or play the main campaign, play the story, and then have like side optional dungeons that we can play in multiplayer. So I have my character, I have all of my gear, and then there's an end game. Basically, I want Legend of Mana with
Diablo. I want the end game of like Diablo, where I just have like randomly generated dungeons I can visit with my friends, something like that, you know?
Exactly. Give me a reason to keep playing this with my friends, and if they can do that, that's it. I'm set.
Awesome, man. I need to throw in one thing here, though. As awesome as Secret of Mana is, one of my all-time favorites is like not out of the Mana series, but in that vein, and that is Secret of Evermore. Have you ever played that?
I definitely.
I love that game. I still played once a year on my original Super Nintendo. I freaking love Secret of Mana Evermore. It's just so good. Yeah.
That era had so many good, just some of the best RPGs.
Lufia was also really good. Man, such good stuff. Dutch, how do you actually? We never talked about the Mana series. How do you feel about it?
The Mana series, I was always a Final Fantasy fanboy. So, Final Fantasy 1 through 6, and 6 being the best Final Fantasy. Fight me.
I will fight you because it's 7. It still is 7.
No. The best villain and the best story is 6. From a gameplay perspective, of course, turning it up a notch, 7 was, of course, that step into the first proper vision of what Final Fantasy could be in the future, and of course that spawned some great titles after that. But no, the Secrets of Mana, the Trials of Mana series, never actually played them, surprisingly.
Again, I need that kick out button here. I know I would end up alone on the show, but
I was going to say and speaking of on the same vein, JRPGs and things like that. One of my favorites to this day, I still want to come back, that Nintendo have neglected drastically, is Golden Sun. Absolutely loved that game. Absolutely loved it. And it looked, for being on a Game Boy, that thing looked tremendous. Like, it's so graphically pleasing to look at the time as well for a Game Boy. I'd love to see that game come back. Absolutely love it.
Yeah, that's a good shout. Doom Reaper writes in and says, what game or accessory are you gifting yourself for Christmas this year?
What game or accessory? Callisto Protocol. It comes out, what day is that? Is it the 4th? December?
Yeah, early December, something like that. Yeah.
My birthday is December 9th and Christmas is the 25th. So it gets all kind of merged together a little bit.
Right. I always forget, you in America, you get your Christmas presents on 25th. We do that on 24th here in Germany. So
so that's what I'm gonna treat myself to, a little Callisto Protocol.
Sweet. How about you, Dutch?
Yeah, it'll be technically it'll be the same. I mean, I'm buying Callisto anyway, but yeah, that's technically my Christmas present to myself. Callisto, probably likely something to enhance this setup in some way, shape, or form, some form of tech. When Amazon get the butts in order, my RAM for my desktop will be upgraded, but still waiting. They're my gifts to myself this year.
Sweet. So I'm not selfish here at all, but I think I might buy myself a third Nintendo Pro controller so I can play with my kids Mario Kart. Nice. Now they play. I have two controllers and they always play, of course, together. But I want to play the three of us. So I might get that, and maybe Sonic Frontiers. Also to play, of course, with the little ones. Of course, I want to play it too, but you always got to make excuses. So, I think that's gonna be it. Because with Callisto, I don't know if I can wait. The FOMO will be big because everyone will be talking about that game, and I always want to be part of the discussion. So, that's Miles. That's you mentioned earlier. You buy a lot of games and never finish them. I hate not finishing games, but I also hate not being part of the conversation.
That's the FOMO,
I know. It's true. That's, by the way, also why I got Elden Ring. I wanted actually to hold off on Elden Ring when it came out, but FOMO got me, and that leads into the next question. Coming, where is it? There it is. From Hertog Win. And yeah, man, I'm going to read your question, even though you like pineapple on pizza. Ugh. But luckily, the question isn't related to that. What will be your game of the year, and who do you think will win at the awards?
Mine, Elden Ring, for sure. Far and away. That is one of those experiences that, for me, I didn't want to finish it, which we've all had those games where you don't want to finish it. But it was for the first time where I beat a game and was sad. Like, I was sad that the experience was over. And that's such a weird, rare feeling that I can't really point to ever having before. It's one of the first times I've ever beaten an open world RPG that took me over 100 hours to finish, and then immediately jumped into a second playthrough, a third playthrough. I have days and days and days of playtime in that game already. And awesome. I'm already talking with my friends about starting another run. We're already having those conversations about going back
on New Game Plus.
We need to get one of our buddies caught up, so we're going to do a new run into New Game Plus, because I have 3 characters that I've beaten it, but I haven't beaten it on New Game Plus yet. I keep beating it with different people and then getting to the end, but I want to do that New Game Plus run. But I honestly think it's, obviously God of War is getting a lot of praise right now. But I've never seen a weird cult RPG, an obscure RPG, blow up in the same way that game did. It was selling Call of Duty numbers. That is unheard of.
It's crazy.
A niche hardcore RPG competing toe-to-toe with Call of Duty, making over $1 billion. And it's not just about money. It was one of those games where, like you just talked about, everyone was playing it and everyone was raving about it in a way that I've never seen. I've had friends I haven't talked to in a decade hit me up and say, "Yo, are you playing Elden Ring?" And I'm like, "Oh yeah, obviously I'm playing Elden Ring." So I've joked about this previously, but I think Elden Ring's going to sweep most categories, whether it be Game of the Year, whether it be Best Soundtrack, whether it be Best RPG. I think Elden Ring is going to be the game that is nominated for most categories and wins a lot of them. But I haven't played God of War, so I don't know. I don't think Elden Ring will win Best Narrative. So that might be a lot.
Probably not. Hopefully not, because honestly, if you talk narrative alone, we had better games this year in terms of narrative. But yeah, Dutch, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm going to go the same. I think Elden Ring will win Game of the Year. I think it did more. Well, it depends on a logical perspective, as we think logically. Elden Ring did more for its genre and the gaming space than God of War is doing. It's not to say God of War isn't going to be an absolute masterpiece, and by all accounts, everyone's saying it's better than the first one, which was, again, acclaimed to be a masterpiece. It's not to say that it isn't an amazing game, but Elden Ring, as Miles pointed out, turned this hardcore Souls-like RPG that very rarely gets much attention, and it's very niche in its player base, usually a couple of million at that, into a 20 million plus juggernaut that just swept over. And much like Miles, I had people at work that don't talk about gaming, talk about Elden Ring, and I was like, what is going on? Like, why? Why is so many people wanting to play Elden Ring of all games? Like, it's just crazy how well and how popular that game did, and still doing. There's still people to this day doing, as Miles said, he's on his 4th, 5th, 6th, 10th, 100th playthrough. And people are still doing it and they're still having fun in it. And so it's a testament to the world that they've created, and it's quite obviously for them. It's another huge bonus to them as to, okay, we had this vision of where we wanted the franchise to go, where we wanted our Souls games to go, and it's not only has it panned out for the best, but it's been the most highest performing game we've ever made. It's hit records. It's a whole new fan base, a whole new player base we've reached. So I think deservedly, the team behind Elden Ring, for everything that they've done for that franchise, for that genre, and for getting so many new people into that particular franchise, I think they're well deserving for Game of the Year this year. Despite what else comes out, I think it's just the wave that came along with that game and the amount of new people trying that genre for the first time and loving it. It's more than deserving of its accolades. So as great as Ragnarok is, or no doubt it will be, I think Elden Ring does the clean sweep. I think narrative actually will be a head-to-head between Ragnarok and Plague Tale. I think, especially, like, I'm still playing through Plague Tale myself, but specifically those later chapters, which I've heard so much about, those later chapters for Plague Tale really start.
The ending, dude. The ending, it hits hard. It hits hard.
So I'm fully expecting Plague Tale, rightfully so as well, for narrative, even maybe music, because of course we know they've done tremendous work with their music and things like that, and audio design. So it's gonna be a tough battle for a couple of them. Like I say, narrative and music and art direction is gonna be a tough battle. But I think ultimately game of the year goes to Elden Ring. Yeah,
Elden Ring.
100%.
And is it also yours? Your personal pick?
Yeah, you know what it is. Even though I haven't personally completed it, for the fact that this game managed to get me, who's not a Souls person at all, like the first Souls I attempted to play was like 4 weeks before Elden Ring launched, and that was Dark Souls 2 Scholar of Something Edition. I don't know what it's called on the Xbox. So I played a little bit of that, and I was like, okay, if they do like an open world version of this, which I know Elden Ring will, I'll probably have a better time with it. And the fact that I actually ended up putting the best part of 20 odd, 30 odd hours into it, which obviously for a non-Souls player and someone who doesn't notoriously like those kind of games, yeah, I would say so far for what it did for me, bringing me into a new genre and what could possibly be kind of another one that I would invest in the future. So far, it's top of the game of the year list. Of course, Ragnarok is right here. So personally, it might be taken over by the end of the weekend, but
yeah.
so far it is. It's Elden Ring. Yeah.
Sweet. Yeah, for me, I agree. I think Elden Ring is probably the game that's gonna win Game of the Year. I mean, realistically, God of War is the only challenger at the Game Awards that could challenge Elden Ring. But yeah, for the reason alone that this game brought a very niche genre to the masses, to the more casual audience. I think it deserves it. Is it my personal pick? Well, probably not. Honestly, I liked it. It was a good game. I don't think it deserves Game of the Year because I simply played games that I had more fun with at the end of the day. But I can't nominate H4, so because that came out last year. So I think as of right now, and I exclude now, of course, God of War because I have only played like an hour or so. Dying Light is the one I'm gonna name because I just had a blast playing that game. I really liked how they built the world. That like the traversal across the city is fantastic, and the way the more you play the game, how you learn to read the city on if I over there I can take that route in the traversal or this one, and I loved it. I loved the story. I really enjoyed it. I know Miles is probably now a little bit disappointed that I don't say Elden Ring.
Hey, it's one of those games. I know people who played it who didn't love it, and again, it's obscure. It's weird.
I mean, it's not that I didn't enjoy my time. I put 85 hours or something in it in order to finish it. So I beat it. I liked it, and I wouldn't have put in 80 plus hours into it if I didn't enjoy it. Obviously, but it also had its issues. Like I felt, especially towards the end of the game, a lot of things were very repetitive. Like, how many magma worms did you fight? Like the bosses felt copy paste, the dungeons felt copy paste, and at the beginning of the game, it was so rewarding, to explore like every corner of the map and find different things and explore the dungeons, of course, and finding cool stuff. And towards the end of the game, everything you found felt like it wasn't helping you or your build that you used in the game. So it just kind of fell short in that regard, especially towards the end of the game. So yeah, I liked it. It's a good game, no doubt. It's a very good game. But if I think about it, I had more fun playing Dying Light. So
boo.
Yeah, I know. Okay, let's change the subject. One last question before we let you go. Coming in from Retri, he says, I want to know what has been Miles' favorite horror game this past year.
Ooh, my favorite horror game. It's been a good year. We're in this horror renaissance right now. So many people are making horror games. So many of those horror games are good. my favorite so far this year, not scary per se, but Evil Dead the game was a big surprise for me because I love Evil Dead. I was going to play Evil Dead the game, even if it was just terrible. Like, I'll be honest with myself. I'll be honest with you. Even if Evil Dead the game was bad, I probably would have played it. But Evil Dead the game came out and it was so good. It's an asymmetrical game, which I know people have problems with. It's only multiplayer. There's no story mode to it, but it's one of those games where the moment-to-moment gameplay feels so good. It's got flashy executions. It's got solid gunplay. And then they just did such a good job creating the world based on the source material. And for me, who's a big Evil Dead fan, it felt like the first time since watching the original Evil Dead movies where you're sucked into that world in a really cool way. And so, yeah, I think I've put 60 hours, 70 hours into it, maybe. And I still play it regularly. I still jump in a few matches a week and play. So it's surprisingly a game that ended up being way better than it has any right to be. And so right now, that's definitely my favorite horror game. Some other shout outs, The Quarry. The Quarry is another fun one. It's, again, less of a game because it's more interactive, but great pacing, great execution, great acting. The twist wasn't quite as good as, Until Dawn, but that being said, the overall production and delivery of The Quarry was super good if you're a fan of cheesy B horror movies.
Yeah. Good shout. And I mean, Callisto is around the corner, right?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. You're absolutely spot on. The horror genre is kind of getting that revival. Like, we get Resident Evil 4, the remake next year as well, and Dead Space, and
Silent Hill.
Silent Hill's coming back finally. 4 of them, 5 of them are coming back.
All of the hills.
Bunch of them. Yeah. No, absolutely. I love that. I can't wait for Resident Evil 4. I have so much nostalgia playing that on my GameCube. I loved it. Yeah, man, it's fantastic to be a horror fan these days. But yeah, with that, Miles, I want to wrap it up. Again, thank you so much for joining. It was an absolute blast to have you on here. In case people don't follow you, they can find all your links in the description of the show note. For everything I could find, at least. But let people know what you've coming up, what you're working on. Where can people see you next? Just let them know where they can find you.
Yeah, again, appreciate the invite. Had a blast hanging out with you guys. If you want to get a hold of me, on Twitter is the best place right now, pending its implosion. That's been a saga for another time. But yeah, I'm on Twitter a lot, and you can also follow me or you can check out my new YouTube channel, youtube.com/MilesDampierre. And if you are Xbox centric, my stuff is over on Windows Central as well. I host a weekly podcast called Xbox Chatterdays that goes live every Saturday at 1 p.m. Eastern time. And that's it. And that's all.
Sweet. No, thanks again for taking the time to come on here. It really was a blast to chat with you. The 2 hours flew by. That just happens when you have great conversations. So thank you, man. And also, Wandering Dutch, thank you for co-hosting once again. As always, it's been a blast. So let people know what you've coming up.
Yeah, certainly. So tomorrow, of course, I'll be diving into God of War Ragnarok. I will be streaming that as well. Of course, when Ian come out, I just sat there and played through the entire thing in a week. Platinumed it straight away, blocked out the world. So this time round,
I wish I had the time for that, man. I wish I had the time for that.
I can't be doing it this time round, but I'll be streaming. I'll be streaming the entire playthrough, so I'm going to be doing it in chunks. But I'll be going for the platinum again. So I'm looking forward to playing that. Of course, the weekend edition has moved to fortnightly, so it makes more sense when there's a little bit of less news at the moment to do it that way. But back again on Tuesday for Sea of Tuesday's Playcast, and again Wednesday for the Midweek Mix-Up podcast. But Miles, as always, it's been a pleasure. What happened to the horror podcast you were doing?
So that is going to be coming back on my new YouTube channel in a way. My co-host and I she works for Eidos, and so there was the whole
Oh.
Embracer
Makes sense.
acquisition, and so it's been a little chaotic, So took a little time off, but we're trying to work out a way to get it back and bring it to a live format as well, which I'm excited about. So yeah, hopefully the big comeback will be soonish, but I'll keep everyone posted.
Terrific. Good to see. But yeah, awesome having you here as always, Miles, and looking forward to seeing your new Pokemon channel take off.
Yeah, indeed. Again, the Pokemon channel of Miles. The link is in the description. And guys, I also want to say a big thank you to everyone in the chat who joined us here live today. You guys are just amazing. Thanks so much for the super chat and the support, of course. And all the channel memberships. It truly means a lot. But yeah, just being here, listening to us and chatting with us about gaming is the best reward there is. That's why we do this, right? And I also want to say, of course, always a big thank you to the people that don't make it live here in the chat, but listen to us after the fact on YouTube or on one of the podcast services around the globe. So thank you, guys. We will have an awesome guest next week as well, by the way. Next week, we will have Ice Steel Rain joining us for the entire show, which is going to be a lot of fun. And then, yeah, very soon, we will have another community special with a couple of community members that come on the podcast that usually don't do podcasts. So it's going to be a lot of fun. We will talk about that a little bit more in depth next week. But for now, thanks again for watching and listening. And don't forget to game on.